Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp, and welcome back to another card making video. So today I was just looking through my stash to see what I actually wanted to create a video on, and I came across this Hunkydory for the Love of Stamps set. This is called Fast Food Fun, and I've had this for quite a while now, and I believe I've only used it once, maybe twice before. And what I wanted to do was create 3 different cards just using the images from this stamp set, because there are 3 sentiments in here as well, so I thought that would be pretty easy. So this is going to be following on in my series of 3 cards, 1 design. So I'm using sort of the same images here, but obviously just trying to use them in a different way, again using those 3 different sentiments and just seeing what we can create. So what I'm going to do is, using my stamping platform, I've taken a piece of this is like a smooth cardstock. This really wasn't the right kind of cardstock to use with my alcohol markers. I found that the colours didn't blend as well, but I'd already kind of started really before I kind of realised that it probably wasn't the right kind of paper. But I'm using the stamping platform because I'm going to try and stamp all of the images all in one go, and then all I'm going to do is wipe them off, and then I'm just going to move them. So we're going to end up with either 2 or 3 of each of the images. So within the set itself, you have got the hot dog, you've got the burger, the fries in the little container, you've then got a drink, and of course then the like sauce dispenser. So the 3 sentiments that are included in this, 2 of them are more birthday specific, but you do have one really great one which would be perfect for Valentine's, anniversary, things like that. And I believe it says something like "we go together like burger and fries." So if you want to create something a little bit different, maybe if you're making a masculine card, I think these would be really great for that. So I'm just inking these up in my Memento tuxedo black ink, because this is Copic and alcohol friendly. Like I said, it didn't end up being the right paper, but of course this is the right ink to use. So like I said, I'm going to make 3 cards, so I do need multiple of these. I end up with a couple of the images left over, but I want to make sure that I've got enough to at least be able to create 3 of those cards. So now that I've stamped all of my images, I can go ahead and get started with my colouring in. So I'm going to be using a combination of my Copic sketch markers and my Tri-Blend markers by Spectrum Noir. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up the colouring. Of course, if you're not interested in the colouring, you can skip past this section. So you can see that I've got all of my images now coloured in and cut. So I did fussy cut these right up against the black edge, so I didn't want to have that white edge around it. And I'm really pleased with how these have turned out. So now we can get started actually looking at creating our 3 cards with these images. So originally I was going to stencil 3 backgrounds for my cards, but I actually decided to go with a paper pack. And again, this is a really great idea of if you've got a stamp set and maybe you want to try and make the most of it, but then you want to create each of your cards slightly different. You could just pick up a paper pad that you've got. All of those patterns will coordinate together if you want it to, but equally you don't have to have every card the same. And it's a really great way of then using up some of your patterned papers. So you can see the papers that I am pulling out, they're quite generic, they're not very sort of bold and in your face, apart from the triangles one, that's probably the one that is the busiest. I wanted it kind of blend in a little bit more, and I wanted the main focus to be on the actual images that obviously I've spent the time colouring in and cutting out. But yeah, I didn't want to make any of these cards gender specific, so they're all just there ready to go for whoever I want to make a card for. So I'm going to trim these papers down because I wanted to have a nice thick white border on the card itself, and originally I was going to create a 6 by 6 inch card, so I am cutting these papers down to 5 by 5, but then when I started putting them together, sort of playing with the design and that, I felt like the images weren't kind of big enough for that size card, so I did end up then trimming these down further. So I picked out then a 5 by 5 inch card, and then so I just trimmed my paper down again to be 4 by 4 inch. So once I'd cut down my backing paper, I then went ahead and heat embossed with some white embossing powder the 3 sentiments from this stamp set. And I'm going to trim these down with this new paper trimmer. So I'm really loving this paper trimmer. If you saw my last video with my latest haul, it did include this trimmer. It's so much more convenient. It's so much easier, being a lot smaller, fitting it on my desk, literally just grabbing it to trim these down. And I can still use the same sort of trimming process that I did with my smaller Fiskars one, where I would line it up with the finger protector, and that gave me a nice even border all the way around the edge of what I was cutting, just so I didn't have to sort of measure anything. The one thing I would say, which isn't a downside for me, but it is just something I noticed just trying to trim down these sentiments, is the finger protector is quite big. So obviously it needs to be, because obviously it needs to protect your fingers, but I did notice that it was a little bit more difficult with these smaller pieces if I wanted to, like I'm doing here, trying to sort of slide them through it. That's why I've moved down to kind of the middle of the guillotine where it's curved back in. Otherwise it took a little bit of extra sort of fiddling just to get that through, but I wouldn't say that was a criticism. Obviously it's there as a safety feature. Other than that, yeah, I do really love this, and I'm so glad that I did get it. So I've got all of my elements all cut down and ready to go. You can see it on the left hand side there. So now I can just begin to kind of put these together and see what images I want to use for which card. So my apologies that I'm quite far down in the screen here. Sometimes I do forget to check to make sure I'm in the shot where I need to be. 9 times out of 10 I do have my camera facing towards the bottom section of my glass mat, but for whatever reason today it's at the top and I just completely forgot to check that. So I'm going to start assembling this card together. So I have got my card base, which, like I said, now this is a 5 by 5 inch card, and I've cut my background to 4 by 4 inch. So like I said, it'll give me that really lovely border around the outside. And then when I've got this down, I then use just a combination of, again, that tape pen that I use for the background paper, and also then foam squares as well, just to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to speed this up just a little bit here, because I do end up, like I said, putting quite a few foam pads and things on, and without sort of heavily editing it down, I thought I would just speed it up. So I am with this, and this is going to be that one which is we go together like burger and fries. So I was just going to have the burger and the fries image, but I thought again it looked a little bit empty, so I did decide to add that drink in there as well. A little bit of a meal deal kind of thing that you would get, but still, you still got that burger and the fries on there. So the reason, again, like I said, why I went for the smaller card is just because I thought this fitted in a lot nicer with the size of the images. And I'm really happy with how all three of the cards actually turned out. I think all the colouring kind of went nice together. I think it is just generally a really nice stamp set. Obviously, you can be as realistic as you want to be, or obviously not. But yeah, I really love how these have kind of come together. I tried to sort of keep the colours similar and quite realistic. So now we've got the images on, I can pop the sentiment. So these are, like I said, white heat embossed onto some black cardstock. And again, for that I've used a combination of then foam pads and some double-sided adhesive. So for card number 2, we are using then a much more muted kind of background. So the first one, that was quite bold out of the 3 that I picked. So again, you could go quite muted or you could go with that bolder background. I think it fits in really nicely. So I decided to go with the bolder triangle for that first one because this one was going to have less images on it. Whereas the one we're creating now, I've gone for this white and grey striped background, which I think is really beautiful because we're going to use all of the images on this one. I wanted, again, that to stand out more than anything else. So I'm going to use my tape runner for the drink and then that sauce bottle, so they're going to be flat on the card, and then we're just going to create a bit of dimension with the foam pads again. With the food, it's going to look like it's in the foreground. So I'm just adding these foam pads first onto the chips, then we're going to go in, I believe it's with the burger. So again, apologies, it's sort of slightly out of screen there. You could create multiple dimensions in here. You could double up your foam pads. You could use thinner and thicker foam pads as well, just to give it much more dimension if you wanted to go down that route. But I really love how all of these sort of look together. It does create a much sort of fuller image. And again, I think this is going to be perfect for birthday cards. This one is going to be a birthday card here. So for the sentiment, this one, it's going to be birthdays are all about having it large. So I wanted to use that sentiment and make sure I use all of the images because it is going large. It's having everything within there. So again, using a combination of those foam pads and the tape runner. For the tape runner is for the section that's going to hang over any of the images that's already there. And of course, then the foam pads just to make it more stable. But that's card number 2 finished. So again, following that same design, using all the same images, but you're just creating something different. And then for card number 3, again, we want to do something a little bit different. So the sentiment we've got here is Happy Burger Day. So this, again, I didn't want to necessarily use all of the images and have it be exactly the same as card number 2. So I'm just going to use only a handful of the images here, try and arrange them a little bit differently. And of course, then we do have that different sentiment and we do have that different patterned paper as well. So just trying to have a little bit of variety here. But again, I'm just showing you that you can use, so one stamp set, I've got one paper pad, and I'm creating 3 different cards, all following that same sort of design, no same images, but showing you that you can use them in a different way. So I'm just using, again, the foam squares and the purple tape runner just to adhere this in the exact same way. So, there's nothing really complicated with these. Like, so once you've got all of your images and everything ready to go, so I had my paper cut down, I had my images coloured and cut, I had my sentiments done as well. It just really made things a lot easier because it means then you can literally just assemble. So I've talked about having a process when you assemble cards before. If you're making more than one, if you're batch creating, it's always much easier to kind of just sort of do it a stage at a time. It means everything's ready to go and then you can really quickly bring your cards together. So that is card number 3 finished. I'm going to add some embellishments, but just looking at the cards next to each other, I really love them. These are probably some of my favourite cards I've created recently. I think they just look really great all together as part of a sort of collection if you wanted them to be. But again, it just shows that you can have one stamp set and then if they've got a few different sentiments in there, you can create completely different cards, different layouts, just using that one stamp set. So I haven't combined lots of stamp sets here. It's literally just using what was included within that set. And I think just shows really how far a simple stamp set can go. So now I'm just adding some 3D drops on here. So I've added some black just to help sort of bring everything together so you can really see them, and then I'm going to add some clear ones in here as well. So like I said in previous videos, I am trying to work on my placement and, you know, try to make things more aesthetically pleasing for myself. I have just put in an order. I'm hoping they're going to turn up so I can do the video on Tuesday. I've done a Tonic Studios haul where I've ordered some patterned paper, but also I've ordered quite a few of their Nouveau drops. So in the few different ranges that they've got for their 3D drops, I have ordered quite a few. They had a sale on. Some of them were down to like £1.10, I think it was, up to about £2 something. So I've ordered quite a few of those. So I'm hoping they're going to turn up, like I said, for Tuesday's video, and I can do just another haul for that. But it'll just give me, again, more practice with using these embellishments. I really like it, especially now that I've started tapping them. That you can see I've done there, and I think it just makes such a big difference, and it definitely means that I want to use them more, have a go at trying to get better at using them. But that is my 3 cards for today's video. So this is, again, following in that series of 3 cards, 1 design. So I hope you like them as much as I do, because like I said, I think these are some of my favourite cards I've created recently. If you do like them, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.